Here is the challenge. We've got a table where the real headers are hiding under a few nulls. Our job is to lift those headers up and get rid of the junk cells, so we end up with a clean dataset ready for analysis. Let's walk through this step by step. We start by loading the table, data from table range. As always, add a new step and use Table.ToColumns function, which takes the whole table and turns it into a list of columns, and each column becomes its own list of values. Let's look at one of these lists. The problem is clear. At the top we have nulls, and only later comes the real header, like date or customer. What we want is to keep those leading nulls and keep everything else. Now the key transformation. Add a new step and use List.Transform function. List.Transform is like for each loop in Power Query. It says go through each item in this list, in our case each column, and do something to it. The second argument is our transformation step. Rows in brackets is just a name for the current column. Then the arrow means do this next. So it means for this column called rows, do this thing. Now List.Skip function has a very specific job. It skips a number of items from the start of the list. In the second argument we can define the number of items to skip. Most of the times it's like 2, 5, 6. But in our code, instead of a number, we have each underscore equals null, which is a function, not a number. It's basically saying skip while value is null. This way we will remove all the leading nulls from each column. And now we are ready to use Table.PromoteHeaders. It will rebuild a table where each inner list becomes a column. Because we removed the leading nulls, the first row of this rebuilt table is your header row, the first non-null value from each original column. As you see, now we can just use the Promote Headers button. It takes the first row of the table and converts those values into column names. Now that our headers are promoted, we still have a small cleanup job to do. Some rows might be completely empty. There are two main ways we can handle that, a quick and easy method and a more advanced, flexible one. Let's start with the easy one. We can select the column which shouldn't be empty, like date, and just remove empty cells. But there is a caveat. This method only checks one column. So it's perfect when you know one column like date, ID or product is always filled in valid rows. But if your dataset isn't that consistent, you'll need something smarter. We will use two functions, List.NonNullCount, which counts how many of those values are not null, and Record.ToList that takes the entire row and turns it into a list of its values. Finally, the condition greater than 0, which means keep only rows that have at least one non-null value. So this version doesn't rely on any specific column name. It checks every column in each row. If a row is completely blank across all columns, it's gone. If even one cell in this row has data, it stays. And remember, the more techniques you master and the more patterns you recognize, the easier the whole Power Query thing becomes. Because it's not about memorizing steps, it's about recognizing structures and knowing the right tool for each one. And don't forget, the more likes the video gets, the more challenges I'll cover in future tutorials. See ya!